Welcome to Live Free. I'm Angela K. Austin. Together, we'll discuss books, we'll explore the world, and we'll do it with some of my closest friends. And hopefully, we'll make new ones along the way.
Hey everybody, I'm Angela K. Austin, and today I'm here with Jeffrey Brunner, CEO and founder of Fussy Librarian. Say hi to everybody, Jeffrey.
Hello, everyone. Good to be
All
with
right.
you.
Thank you for joining me today. All right, so I know a lot of indie authors are familiar with Fussy Librarian. I know a lot of readers are familiar, but in case there is somebody out there who may not know what the Fussy Librarian is and what the Fussy Librarian has to offer, well, let's give them a little bit of detail, Jeffrey. So first, tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us, just kind of like, what is the Fussy Librarian and why did you start it?
The Fussy Librarian is, we have two email newsletters that go out to subscribers. One is focuses on bargain ebooks, usually that are $5.99 or less. Most of the books tend to be in the 99-cent or $2.99 range, depending on what royalty rate the author is going for. And so that's one newsletter. And then the other, that newsletter has about 120,000 readers. And then our other newsletter focuses on free ebooks. And that newsletter has about 390,000 readers. So we, most authors are familiar with newsletter services, but what we do is we include your book cover and a brief description, and then links to the various retailers, Amazon, Nook, Apple, Kobo, Google Play, etc. And readers, if they're interested in your book, they click on the link and they go to the retailer and buy it and have it delivered to their e-reader. I got started, I was in journalism for about 25 years, and I worked in newspapers, and probably around the time of the financial crisis in 2008, layoffs started to accelerate in the newspaper business. And every year, usually 2 or 3 times a year, there'd be another round of layoffs, and we would say goodbye to another 5 or 10 coworkers. And it just became apparent that, sooner or later, that's going to be me. And I was sort of on borrowed time, and I needed to come up with a plan B. And I started looking around, and I don't know if I saw another newsletter and that's where the idea came from or not, but it was basically one of those, hey, I can do this. There's not a lot of people in this area, and it's a pretty scalable business too, because it's all digital. It's not like you're selling widgets where, if you're selling 10 widgets, you need only one person to distribute them. If you're selling 1 million widgets, you need 500 people to distribute them. I mean, there's a nice scale of economy there when you're dealing with a digital product. So, so in 2013, I started out the bargain newsletter first, and got some savings and hired some programmers and got that up and running. And we added the free newsletter 2 or 3 years later. It really wasn't until 2 or 3 years ago that we started really heavily marketing the free newsletter. And that's nearly doubled in size since the first of the year. And we are going to continue growing in 2020 as well. So that's how we are where we are today.
Yeah, and I just want to say it's amazing, because I know a lot of indie authors, we got into this, whole thing for a lot of different reasons. But, just like you said about layoffs, in my career as a marketer, I've been laid off like 3 times. And I know people have heard me say that before. So, one of the things about being an indie writer, or just having, some sort of something that you're doing, is that you do kind of have like a little bit of cushion. You get that, that other income coming in, so that you're not dependent upon like one salary from someplace, because
it's good to, yeah, I highly recommend everyone try to create a side hustle for themselves. And you don't have to, you don't have to jump in with both feet initially. You can just kind of dabble it on the side. And that's what I did for the first year or so. I stayed at my day job and then basically ran Fussy Librarian at night. And after about a year, were going well enough. Like, okay, now I'm comfortable leaving my day job. And so that's what I would tell people to do is, that way you can test different things, because the first thing you may try may not work. It might be the second or the third thing. And that way you're not putting everything at risk to experiment, but you're going to find something that does click. And then you'll know, hey, this is what I'm going to sink my time and money into and kind of accelerate things from there.
I completely agree, because the thing is, sometimes we don't do things because they feel scary. So, and like you said, you don't have to jump in with both feet. You just take a little time, stick one little toe in, then another little toe, and you keep going, And honestly, like I was telling,
writing books is that side hustle for a lot of people.
Is the side hustle, yeah.
Yeah. Until it becomes something that pays the bills full time. I mean, that's how most people dabble into writing, is they come home, they eat dinner, and then they try to crank out a chapter.
That's it. No.
Yeah.
You're like writing at 2:00 in the morning because you have a regular job. So, you have to do whatever. But I was telling Jeffrey, one of the reasons that I wanted to interview him for the channel is because, one, the newsletter popped into my email, and I was like, why have I not reached out to talk to Jeffrey about, what they do at the Fussy Librarian? But two, because, so many of my author friends, so many of the people who I've known for this time that I've been doing this whole indie thing, they use the Fussy Librarian. It's on the list. It's like, oh, if you have a new book, you need to hit this place, this place, this place, this place, and this place, right? And the Fussy Librarian is always on the list. And I don't know if you heard what Jeffrey just said, when it comes to because so many of us, we do have perma-free books out there, and so you heard him say that for his newsletter that specializes on those free books, he's got 390,000 subscribers to that. Do you guys understand that? And then for the other newsletter, the bargain newsletter, where it's $2.99, $1.99, you're talking about what you said, 190,000 subscribers, Jeffrey?
120,000 right now.
120. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I mean, come on, So when you're talking about indie authors and we're trying to figure out how do we promote, how do we advertise, a lot of people, they get stuck in where do they need to go and what do they need to do? And a lot of it they think is time consuming, because they'll end up on social media doing a whole lot of posting, or some people, they get virtual assistants and other people to help them with that, and so I want to talk a little bit about some of the offerings that you have for authors, because when you have these two kind of powerhouse newsletters, 120,000, 390,000, to be able to access these, these groups of people who are looking, for books to read. What are some of the offers that you have for authors so that they can take full advantage of this service that you have?
Well, each newsletter has a number of slots in it, it's for number of books, and it's generally 35 to 40 books. And the bargain newsletter has more categories. It has a total of 40 categories. So it may have areas more granular, like female sleuths or police procedurals, or urban fantasy, whereas the free newsletter might have just a mystery category or a fantasy category. So the bargain newsletter lets people get kind of dialed down into subgenres and that kind of thing, whereas the free newsletter is really good for just getting first book in a series out, or maybe a prequel, or even a short story, but just getting it into a lot of hands. And from that group of people that sample it, that's where your future readers are going to come from, and hopefully they then come back and buy other books in your series. So And I think I'm a big proponent of free, which I know is not everyone is. That's fine. But I just think it's so hard to get noticed out there in this day and age because there are so many people who are writing that free is just a good way to get your book into 1,000 or 2,000 hands pretty easily and start to develop that fan base and start to grow your own mailing lists. Whereas it's going to be a much smaller number if you're just asking someone to spend $3.99 or $4.99 on someone they've never heard of. Maybe you don't have a lot of reviews. You're asking people to take a risk, and some people will, but it's a lot easier when it's a kind of there's nothing to lose. If it's free, they like it, great, I found a new author, I'm going to go and explore their other books. But if it's not their cup of tea, they can just delete it from their e-reader, and it's the only thing they've devoted to that is 30 minutes to read your first couple chapters. So yeah.
And so then authors do have the option then of using a sample in the free newsletter.
We've had some people try that. Usually it's the first book in a series.
First book, okay.
But there are other people who maybe they've got multiple books in a series, but each book is a standalone. Mm-hmm. They'll go ahead and do other books in the series too, especially if it's like in Kindle Unlimited, because they'll pick up those page royalty reads as well. So different authors have different approaches. But yeah, another way to do it is if you've got a prequel to a series, sort of a scene setter that might be 50 pages or something like that. They'll do that just to get people interested in the world. And I think that works particularly well for fantasy and science fiction, which can, they're much more rich in deep detail and more complex, and that, because it's usually a foreign concept that you're trying to explain to readers. And so a prequel can kind of help ease people into that world and get them comfortable.
I can see that if somebody is trying to use, what some people call a book zero. So like you say, it just kind of introduces and it sets that foundation and get people to kind of know what that world is that they're going to go then and hopefully buy all the books in the series. Mm-hmm. I can get with that. Now, what I want to try to do, guys, because the Fussy Librarian is a website, let's see if I can get fancy and share my screen, show you guys a little bit of this website. So hold on. If this doesn't work, we will see. Okay. Here we go. All right, look at me.
Oh, there we go.
All right. So let's see. I want to show you guys some of the advertising. So here you submit the bargain ebook, submit the free ebook. So let's just take a look and see, because a lot of us do have perma-free. So there you go. Look at that, guys. 390,000. Look how easy it is. Like, you can just click to schedule. You see, look at some of these reviews from other authors. Let's see. And, and honestly, guys, what I like about this, you guys know how I feel about partnering, so that you're not doing all the work yourself. You already have the Fussy Librarian that has built this loyalty and this customer base who's out there looking for us. So, and you don't necessarily have to do all the work yourself. So you can come in and you can, jump into this newsletter. See, look at this growth. This is one of the things I told Jeffrey I wanted to share with you guys. So look at this recent growth here for this, specific newsletter. Look at that. I mean, that is a lot of growth over these past few months. So let's go up here and see if we can, go back.
You want to scroll down for a second and click on the schedule button, and you'll be able to see availability.
Okay, which one? Like right here?
The orange, yep, the orange bar, yep.
Okay.
And then click on the one on the, no, click on the free, yep, that one.
Mhm.
And then pick, say, the mystery category. So this way you can come in and see what days we have openings in this calendar. For example, we're booked pretty solid in mystery for about the next 10 days. But we'll
Yeah.
have an opening there on the 22nd, and then starting in the last week of the month, you'll see more openings.
Yeah.
And our calendar runs, I think, for 90 days out. So if you're a planner, you can book ahead, you can save money because, as we grow larger, we adjust our prices. But if you book now, say for 2 months from now, you avoid any potential price increase. And you've locked in your spot. All you've got to do is just make sure you write it down on your calendar so you remember to promote your book then.
Yeah. See, and that's, I am a person who does love to kind of schedule and just get everything taken care of, so you don't have to really worry about it,
Yeah.
especially if I have a new book or something coming out.
Mhm. Especially if you're coordinating multiple newsletters, the further you're doing it in advance, the better the odds you're going to be able to get everything to line up, just because our my inventory changes differently than someone else's might.
Mhm.
And so I might have an opening, but a different newsletter might be sold out. And so if you're willing to, if you plan at least a month out, you can usually get whatever dates you need.
Whatever you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, nowadays, Jeffrey, when you have so many authors who are doing pre-orders and things of that nature,
Mhm.
they kind of know what they're doing, 3 months out, because they've got that pre-order out there. So I think a lot of us are more than able to do just that, to get that, that month's notice in and be able to book this with you.
Right. And
So
we do accept pre-orders. I know not everyone does, but we accept them. And some
yeah,
some authors find it helpful. Yeah.
it is, because the thing is a lot of us, we're trying to figure this thing out as we go. And so we may
Mhm.
not quite know, like all the details of what we're doing. And so once we do and we have it figured out, to be able to kind of set it and book it so we can see how it works and then repeat it for the next book. That's like the best partnership ever. I wanted to show people, if you can guide me, Jeffrey, because I'm trying to remember. I wanted to show people how they can see some of the books.
If you go down to free and bargain books, to the right of the logo up
Okay.
there, free and bargain books,
Mm-hmm.
click the one that says bargain Kindle ebooks. And this is a database of all the deals from the past 30 days. And so uh, for up to a month after your promotion is in the newsletter, it'll be on our website. And
Nice.
the details you see here are generally the same ones that will be in the email newsletter.
Okay, I'm gonna look for romance paranormal. Yeah, my next book coming out is romance paranormal.
Uh-huh.
So let me see who else is utilizing romance paranormal. See, this looks great, guys. Look at this. And this is what I'm saying, right? When we all are talking about marketing, we're talking about having our books out there. Like you say, you've heard me say it a million times, finding, those partner agencies who can work with you, but, also making sure that what you have, as part of your marketing plan, that it fits in with the genre and fits in with the other people who are out there. So, in about a month, you guys will probably see me on here. You just get scrolling down until you find me. Well, hopefully I'll pop out when you do see me. But this looks great, Jeffrey. I love the way that the thumbnails aren't so super small. You can really, see what's happening with the thumbnails. You can read the blurbs. This is really laid out nicely, for the reader and of course for the author, so that the author, has that ability to really jump out to the reader who's looking for a particular type of book. So that's great.
My brother's working on his first novel, and he's currently getting the cover designed. And so I'm having to explain to him, like, look, you've got to look at this thing in thumbnail size, because that's how 95% of the world is going to see the cover. So, the title's got to be large, and it's got to be some contrast and all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And because I just don't, not every author, I think, realizes that, like, it's going to be this big, and that's why you have to catch someone's attention. So, yeah.
And I've had a couple of cover artists on the channel before, and we've talked about that, is that you really have to make sure that it jumps out, but that it jumps out and it's legible. People can see who you are. They can tell what
Yes.
it's about. They get a feel for the tone and whatever. So that looks really good, the way you have the website laid out, because, if my book is on that and people are scrolling down, they'll be able to see Angela K. Austin. They can read the blurb. And, so authors who go into your newsletter, they then get put onto the website, you said, for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
See,
yes.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And how frequently do your newsletters go out, Jeff?
They go out 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
On the free newsletter, we let readers decide which days of the week they receive it.
Okay.
Whereas on the bargain one, it goes out every day.
Okay. That's amazing.
And for the free newsletter, I would say the majority of people probably get it every day. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So I buy an ad. I can schedule the ad and the frequency. Tell me a little bit how it works. So we showed them a little bit on the website. So we can go in, we can see that which days are available. So we can click on that date, and then what? How do we schedule it?
You'll fill in the details. So that's typically going to be genre, title, a brief description. For the bargain newsletter, maybe the ratings at Amazon, the links for the various retailers. For the bargain newsletter, you'll upload the cover. For the free newsletter, we typically go and we'll grab that from Amazon when we design the newsletter. The bargain newsletter is more automated. Once everything is submitted and approved, the software goes and kind of pulls each of those pieces each day and then sends out the newsletter, whereas the free newsletter is designed in MailChimp. So we're going and saving and uploading images and copying and pasting and all that. So.
And so then once we do that, like, what's the longest? I mean, I don't know. This is a question that just popped into my head. Has anybody run like an ad with you once a week, every week for like a year? Like what are those options?
Nothing that frequent, but we have had some authors who have done 2 or 3 times in a month. When they ask me, I don't recommend it, but if they are adamant, I say, okay, you can see if it works for you. And that's sort of our philosophy, is like, yes, I have opinions about what I think will sell, will download, but I could be wrong. So I'm perfectly willing to let authors experiment to see what works for them. And that's why we, on the bargain newsletter, will let people price their books up to $5.99, which not a lot of newsletters do. And from what I've seen over the years, it's a very, very, very tough sell. But I'm still willing to hold out that for some authors, that's going to work. And they found for whatever reason, the blurb, the subject, the cover, they're able to sell it at that price point. And so I'm going to go ahead and let them because heck yeah, get those royalties at a higher price point if you can.
And, and a lot of people I know, because depending on which aggregator you use to distribute your books, they'll make recommendations. And so depending on the author and following and just whatever, they may, leap out there and try something, or they may be going off of that recommendation or what have you. So yeah, so there are, sometimes you just have to try, because you don't know what's going to work for you, until you really kind of feel it out and see what readers' thresholds are.
I'm a fan of free for either book 1 or book 0. Then for book 2, either 99 cents or $2.99, and then stay at $2.99. And then say if you've got 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 books in the series, maybe for your newest release, step it up to $3.99 or even $4.99 and see if you've got enough of a base at that point that they're willing to pay a little bit more for it.
And see, and and people who watch this channel, you guys know me, it's like I always I base my pricing on, I look at the data that the different aggregators give me, but I base a lot of it on the word count and just like other things that are happening in that genre. And because I write across so many different genres now, it's like it will depend, so, but one of the things that I do is, because I do have series, I do have books that will fall into the price point for, like, because the bargain newsletter, what's the highest price point that one can be, Jeffrey?
Up to $5.99.
$5.99. Okay. Yeah. So so all of my ebooks then would fall into the $5.99, because I was thinking for some reason that it cut off at that $2 or $3.99, and I only have, like, in my series, I do have some books that would fall into that. But yeah, I do, I'm definitely an advocate for stepping up, if you're talking about series and stuff like that, because it's a great way to introduce people to your series. You bring them in, then they love it and they stay. They never go away in a dream world.
You made a good point about genres, though, and that, say, romance readers tend to gravitate towards lower price points just because they're more voracious readers. They read more books, and so they might only be willing to spend 99 cents or $2.99. And those books are shorter too. Whereas like a fantasy novel, that could be a 400, 500, 600 page book. And so for books later in the series, you might be able to charge $3.99 or $4.99 for a book like that.
And for some reason, when it comes to like sci-fi and paranormal, I agree. I just think people are probably, and maybe because so many of those, they see them, they're made into these big budget movies or whatever. Maybe they're just not as price sensitive, when it comes to those genres. So you do have to make sure that, use the algorithms as much as you can for the aggregators that you're working with, until you start to understand it more yourself and get a feel for what your thresholds are. But yeah, you got a lot of tools out there that'll help you figure it out, so that you don't price yourself out, but that you also don't screw yourself over. That's the only way I can say that.
You can say that.
So let's talk a little bit about the readers. So you've been doing this, you say, since what, 2013? Is that right, Jeffrey?
Yes.
So what do you think, is the reason behind why you have managed? Because there are a lot of newsletter groups out there, you know what I mean? But, like between your two newsletters, that's a lot of readers. So what do you think that, what did you do? How'd you get all those readers, on your team? How'd you get them all to sign up?
Yeah, I would say our free newsletter, we're probably number 3 right now, behind BookBub, which of course is multiples larger than anybody else. But then Free Booksy, and then probably then us, for the free newsletter. Well, we found readers. We went out and we spent money. There's no easy way to do it. You just got to spend money to market to them. And um, so I think it was 2 years ago. We went and like, all right, like if we're ever going to start growing significantly, we need to invest more in this. And I didn't want to take on um, investors like BookBub did. They got outside investors who pumped like, I think it was like $7 or $8 million into it. And it's like, yeah, you could buy a lot of readers for $7 million. But I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to keep ownership to my sole ownership. And so I went to the bank and I got a small business loan and got approved for it, which is, um, it's a, it's a tough process. I mean, my God, the amount of paperwork you've got to go through to convince people to lend you money, especially when you're in e-commerce and it's something digital, because you don't have physical assets that you can use as collateral and those sorts of things. And you need to convince them like, hey, I've got this existing reader list and this is worth money. And I need to convince you that this data is worth money. And some banks get that and some don't. Some are real old fashioned. So we did that. We got a loan, went out, uh, hit up Facebook, did a lot of Facebook advertising. And I know people have love-hate relationship with Facebook, and I do too. But the reality is that it's still the most effective advertising platform on the planet, and nothing comes close right now. I would love there to be an alternative, because I would definitely go there. But so we did that. Kind of waited about 2 years, and this COVID hit, and ad rates plummeted. I mean, nobody was advertising on Facebook back in February and March. And I was like, all right, this is scary. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if authors are going to be marketing. Thank God they still did. I was like, all right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get another loan. And that's what I did. And I went in big, and we've been marketing pretty aggressively since June. And the numbers have, as you've seen, have started to really take off. So we'll, we hope to keep growing at that clip going forward. I don't really see us slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I think was a surprise for a lot of people with COVID was that, it may have shut down like maybe like some of the physicality of the world, where we couldn't move outside of our homes, but it opened up some different things within the home, so you had people who, Netflix and Amazon and ebooks, all these other things just kind of started going crazy because of the simple fact that for like 6-7 months people have been trapped in their homes,
Right.
and so you need some sort of relief from that, and to your point, authors, especially a lot of indie authors, when you see that that's happening, you're like, okay, then how do I make sure that people know that my products are available so that while they're sitting at home, they can, add me to their list of to be read, add me
Right.
to the TBR list. And so I think a lot of authors got really, really smart really fast and were like, why am I not advertising? Why am I not doing this, that, or the other? Because I know some people who hadn't done ads before, who all of a sudden, are taking classes, trying to understand, trying to grow in their understanding of who their partners are when it comes to, marketing and advertising, so that they can really be ready. And then hopefully on the other side of all this, not only will we be, healthy as, as nations and as a world, but also I think a lot of people who have had these side hustles and who are in this indie marketing world, I think we're all just going to come out smarter about what marketing is and how to do it better, and then maybe, we'll have a few more partners. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious now that I actually think about it. You know, in general, did you, like you said, you know, advertising didn't necessarily go down, but did you see a particular, if you look at last year this time versus this year, you know, I know we're going into fall and the holidays and lots of authors do ads during the holidays, but did you see a particular upswing in the ad buys over these last couple of months?
Ad costs have started the trend upwards in recent months. Absolutely. Um, I think a lot of that I'm going to attribute to campaign spending,
Mm-hmm.
with political campaigns saturating all Facebook, and Facebook also made a design change too in the last couple of months where did a redesign which actually ended up reducing the number of spots where you can advertise. So it had the effect of shrinking ad inventory. So there's less to bid on, which is going to have the effect of driving prices up as well. So I think the combination of that and the political advertising, everyone trying to get their ads out, has gradually driven costs up. So I'm real curious to see what happens after the election. We're also going to start testing some international markets too, to see if we can find some good leads in places like Canada and Australia and the UK, and English speaking people in Germany and France, etc. Um, and and see if we can keep growing the reader base that way.
You know, and as a person who is temporarily relocated to London, I appreciate you. you can you can help me, you know, break into a whole new something over
That's
here.
right.
Thank you for that, Jeffrey. See, good
Yay.
partnerships. Good partnerships. Um, you know, so but that is to be expected that ad costs are definitely going to go up for you. But have you seen where authors are doing more buys? Are you getting more authors buying into the Fussy Librarian right now?
Yeah, in fact, we have. For the first time in our free newsletter, we're starting to sell out our inventory, which is about 40 books a day. Um, and I would say it was probably 25 a day at the beginning of the year. So for the first time, we're starting to sell out, uh, several days in advance, like your viewer saw when we looked at the calendar earlier. Um, so yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with just people are starting to realize how large that mailing list is, and they want to get their book out in front of people. Um, so so yeah, we are as busy as we have ever been, and I I have days where I feel kind of guilty about that, just because the economy is so bad for a lot of people out there, and so you feel bad when like things are going well for you. Um,
It's
but
a mixed bag.
it is what it is, and you just kind of have to keep doing your thing and hope that
Yeah,
the situation gets better for everyone else.
for everyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a mixed bag. You know, I would venture to say that is, you know, that you shouldn't feel guilty, but pay it forward, because that's the
Yes,
thing. It's like that in if when the economy starts to collapse, the only thing that's going to make it, you know, start to get back to where it needs to be is really if those who are succeeding during this time are sharing that success in that they are buying and spending and doing things, you know. So you're fortunate in that, you know, your business is e-commerce, your business is online, and at this time when there's so many people who need a distraction from the world around them, you are providing a service that is helping them, you know, dig through all of those options, and maybe they'll find me.
that's right.
you know.
And we try to hold our prices down. There are some categories when we compare ourselves to competitors, and we're finding, there's some categories where we probably could be charging more, but we just don't feel comfortable doing that. We try to keep things performance based. where so that you're getting the same value for a children's book that you're getting for fantasy. We try to keep everything in that free newsletter to like 2 to 3 cents per click, because MailChimp lets us measure clicks. I wish we were able to measure downloads, but Amazon doesn't share that data with us. So we use clicks as our metric. And so we try to base our prices in that 2 to 3 cent range for each click. And we keep like our LGBT genre, I think is, I don't know, I want to say $14 right now. And our African American genre is only 10. And those are areas where we're just trying to pay it forward. Those probably could warrant being a little bit more expensive, but those are small. At least for us, they're smaller niche audiences, and so we try to just keep those prices as affordable as possible, so people can get started and access those readers, keep things affordable for them.
I'm just so surprised because I don't, in the indie world that I'm a part of, I don't know one author of color who is not like, are you in the Fussy Librarian? So, I mean, it's like so many people, recommend the Fussy Librarian. And so,
that's great.
Yeah, I'm so glad I had the opportunity. But before we get ready to sign off, I wanted to ask, so as an indie author, who is, like I say, always looking for partners, and I know that there are so many of us out there, are there any recommendations that you would give to indie authors about newsletters and how to know if a newsletter is one they should actually be paying to work with? Like, you've been out there now for 7 years, you have all these people who are signed up, are there, like, is there a tip you would give to a newbie indie author, or even myself, about how to pick a good newsletter?
I think when you're just starting out, I would recommend to not stack your promotions, because try one author, try one newsletter on one day and try another newsletter 2 days later, and so forth. And that way you can really gauge the effectiveness of each newsletter. If you stack them, you're not going to know what's coming from where. But if you separate them out, you can say, oh, okay, I got good results from here. I want to go back and use them in the future. Or, oh, this one just didn't really click. My book wasn't a good fit for that particular audience. The other thing I'd suggest is, or point out, is that all newsletters are different. They all have different audiences. They may have slightly different ways that they do their marketing, so they're just attracting different readers. So don't get discouraged if you market in a newsletter and you're not successful. It just may be that newsletter was not a good fit for your book, but that there's another newsletter out there where it is going to click with readers. I guess that would be my best advice. And thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for joining me. And I wanted to say, I love that tip, because, so often when we do start to do our advertising, we do stack, especially if it's a new release or something like that. We're like, bam, 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 bam. We want to hit people from all the angles, all the sides. We don't want you to turn left or right without seeing something about one of our books. So I really will suggest that. Now, if it's something that you're familiar with, like Fussy Librarian or something like that, run with it, do what you do. But if there's a new one that you're adding, give it some time by itself. And I'll even expand that time that you just said. Jeffrey, I would actually say give it like a 2-week gap or something, so that you can really see which one of those ad pieces you're using is really bringing you those sales, so that you're not, you can eliminate the ones that are not and keep the ones that are good. So I agree with you on that, Jeffrey. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, all my people, everybody out there in YouTube World Podcast Land, I am Angela K. Austin, and this is Jeffrey Bruner.
Thank you.
The CEO and founder of the Fussy Librarian. If you don't know about it, you'll know about it now. And I will make sure that I put links and everything to all of the social media for Fussy Librarian, as well as to the website, so that people can get quick access to you guys. But thank you so much for joining me, Jeffrey.
Thank you for having me.